Yeah, my name's Muriel Bamblett, and my people are Yorta Yorta and Sha Sha Rung, and I'm CEO of the Victorian Aboriginal Childcare Agency. At a time, it was Auntie Molly Dyer was working at the Aboriginal Legal Service, and there were high numbers of Aboriginal young people that were coming to the Aboriginal Legal Service who had a history of being in out-of-home care, didn't know their family, had no connection to community, and were ending up in juvenile justice and then into the criminal justice system. And it was, Auntie Molly was devastated by just the impact of, young people not knowing who they are. And it was sad enough that they went into juvenile justice, but even more sad to not know their people and not be able to connect with their community and culture. I think at a governance level, the board takes seriously the role of culture, and so they do ask, what do we do around making sure that, we embed culture in the work? How do we do it in our strategic planning, in all of our planning processes? What are our activities? What are our case management? How do we make sure that we're an Aboriginal organisation? And so what's the difference? Because a lot of, the danger we could be is we become like other mainstream organisations, and we're not taking on board, the needs of our community and not delivering a service that meets the needs of our community, because we were set up to serve, our Aboriginal people, and it's really important that our services do meet their needs and that, we're able to, address their issues when they come to our organisation. I think our board comes from the community, and so with mainstream, a lot of the boards that they have come from, a specialist that come from banking and, are able to bring money to the organisation. Our board, principally based on the community, and we see it. We see a wealth in that they bring a knowledge of the community. They know exactly what the needs of the community are, and so it is challenging at times because we don't have the same background as many of the other NGOs that are, because we don't have the fundraising or the capacity to attract funds. Most people think that Aboriginal services are the government's responsibility, and so it's very hard to attract funding for an Aboriginal organisation. And so there's quite a lot of difference in the way that we generate income. There's quite a lot of, a lot of difference in the issues that the board have to deal with. Quite a lot of the issues come from the community, and being able to manage the community, to be able to manage, culture and manage native title, and to manage, identity and the importance of culture and embedding culture. Mainstream organisations don't have to think about those things. I think that the board are involved in a number of our activities. So we've got an audit and risk committee, and so they oversight that. But they don't just look at what are risks for as far as, our compliance around our management. They actually look at what are the cultural risks for the organisation, and so how are our children, are we doing cultural support plans? What are we doing around children's identity? Things that the board have specifically introduced is that every Aboriginal child that's in our service must have a family tree, must know who they are, and must have access to their native title so that they know who they are, and when they leave our service that they have access to know where their family is. And a lot of what the board have directed as well is looking at how do we do return to country. A lot of the children that are in care in Victoria don't come from Victoria. So making sure that those Aboriginal children have access to their country. And so a lot of our work is a lot of our role is to try and find additional funding to return children to country. So we've taken children to Lockhart River, we've taken children to the APY lands in South Australia, and so it's really important that we return children to their country and that they're connected to their people where they live. And so the board is really, quite, interested, whilst the finances and the compliance is driven, internally by the organisation, and that's their role, because we're an organisation that's very high risk. We've got high risk children who come into care and are quite complex, have been through huge amounts of abuse and neglect, and we've got to place them with carers who themselves need lots of support. And so it is a high-risk area of work, and so it's important that the board understands it. But the board also understands cultural safety and the importance of culture and cultural interventions and engagement of Aboriginal people. And they know that a lot of our Aboriginal people don't get a service, and so they really challenge us to make sure that that Aboriginal people are accessing our services and that we're doing a good job. So they ask for outcomes, not just numbers.